What's up, guys? Four-wheeler doctor again. Back working on this little RM125. Got the motor build on it. You know, want to learn something about that, check out my other video. But right now I'm gonna put a wheel bearing in the rear of this thing. It's got a little wobble to it. Picked up a kit on online. Comes with 3 bearings. Looks like 2 seals. So never done one of these before, but I'm gonna tear it apart and see if I can walk you through how to do it. The first order of business naturally is taking the axle nut out. I'm gonna slide that or take that out. It actually comes off on this on the right side, and it doesn't. It looks like it's locked in on the other side. The actual axle is, so you don't have to hold it with anything. But we'll take a punch and knock that out. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen that nut up. It's 24 millimeter. So we'll loosen that up, knock the axle out, and I'll cut the camera back on. Alright, so I got the axle nut off, and there's a little washer in here. This thing looks like it's been torqued down on. It's actually bent. I don't think it's supposed to be like that. And then this other little spacer for your chain tensioner. And somebody's beat the fool out of this axle here. It's actually not even square anymore. That's why I say you need to use a punch to get in here and hit the inside of it so you don't mess those threads up. You beat on those threads much, it's going to make the axle where you can't get the nut back on it. Also over here on this side, since I got some tension off of there, the chain's real loose now. I can work that chain off, and I'm going to do that, slide the chain off and knock this axle out, and then we'll look at the hub and see what it's going to take to press those bearings out. Alright, cut the camera on in a sec. Alright, now you just slide this thing back, kind of hold on to the brake caliper there because it will move on you, but the tire and the hub will slide right off now. And with this hub, it's got these spacers out on the outside. You'll need to take those off because you'll have to reuse those. One on both sides. Pull both of those out, and that's what you get there with the spacers. And then it appears you got a seal and a bearing on this brake side, and then the other side it looks like you got 2 bearings mashed side by side here on the chain side, and a seal, and I believe there's a spacer in between them from what it feels like. So I'm going to take my seal puller and pull these seals out, see if there's any snap rings on them, and then we'll figure out how to press these bearings out of here. Alright guys, here's what we got. There's 2 bearings on this side, on the sprocket side, and one on the brake side. And you got about 3, maybe 4 options to get these things out. One thing I've done in the past is there's 2 bearings here and then 1 bearing way on the other side, and there's a sleeve in between them. Well, this sleeve usually has a little bit of play. You can actually stick your finger in there and press it down. Well, if you press the sleeve down, then there's a top lip of the sleeve that's exposed. And you can take a screwdriver and catch that top lip of the sleeve and hit it with a hammer. And a lot of times it'll make the bottom lip become exposed at that point. Then you can hit it there and work the bearing off like that. Naturally, you want to work with the side that's got the single bearing on it because it's a little easier to get out than these 2 bearings, at least to start off with. And what the idea is, you knock that one out of that side, flip it over, knock both of these out of this side with just a socket. It'll be a whole lot easier to do. The problem you got is the hole in here is about the same size as the sleeve, so you can't just stick a socket through the hole and expect it to catch on the other side. Alright, so the other option, that was option 1. The other option is to take a washer, I've done this before, that's about the same size as this inner race, and weld it. Weld the washer around this inner race, then take a punch, stick it straight through the center, and knock it out that way. Alright, and your third option is to use something called a blind bearing puller. There's one of these things here, and you stick it in there and tighten it up, and it expands out to catch the bearing. That one's too small, but to catch the lip of the bearing, and then you use a slide hammer comes in this little kit here to pull it out. So I'm not real sure what I'm gonna do. I think I might, you know, I guess some people don't have a welder, and definitely probably even fewer people have a slide hammer to make it work. So the most folks would use the screwdriver route, and it works. It's just a little labor intensive. So I think I might try the second best thing, and that's to weld a washer on the other side and knock that one out, and just knock the other two out, and make pretty quick work of it. I keep my welder hooked up over in the corner, and I'll do that and give you a shot of it once I get it finished, and show you me knocking it out. Alright guys, so I went ahead and welded the washer in here. The washer had a pretty good size hole in the center, so I went ahead and welded the hole up too, so the washer would fit right inside of the bearing. So I got a good bit of weld put around it, so it should hold. Now all I got to do is take this punch, stick it through this side, and keep your fingers crossed, and you can knock this thing out here. And actually the heat from the welding helps too. So there you go. There's your bearing. There's your sleeve. And then there is not the flashlight. I was going to show you the up in the other side. There it is. Okay, so there you go. That's the back side of the other bearings in there. Okay guys, so now, sorry my battery went dead on my camera. Now you can take just an 18mm extension or something even a little bigger than that, in a long extension, and knock those other two bearings out. I'm probably just going to use, I got a 3/4 inch drive extension here, and it fits up in there pretty good. So I'm going to use that and just knock those out, and then all you got to do is press these back in. You can use a socket. Preferred method is using a press, and I've got a press, but there's a big old Arctic cat in the way right now. So I'll probably just get a socket that will just barely fit inside this relief here, and knock those in. Like I say, I know that's not ideal, but I'm trying to show what most people would do in their own at-home shop. So let me get these other two knocked out, and then I'll show you putting the other three bearings back in. Alright guys, try the camera angle out. What you want to do now, some people take and stick these bearings in the freezer, and that will help to put the new bearings back in. But usually all I do is just put a little bit of oil on them. If I've got time or know the night before what I'm going to be doing the next day, I will stick them in the freezer just to help. So put a little bit of oil on there, get it in there, kind of get it squared up and halfway started. Just to make it a little easier going in. And then the socket I'm going to use is a 32mm. That touches the outside of the race, and as long as you keep it squared up on there, it's not going to mess with the bearings, or actually mess with the ball bearings or the bearing as a whole. And it should go all the way down in there once you get it deep enough. I'm working first, this is the side that has the two bearings in it, so just keep tapping it in and make sure you're keeping it square. Sometimes you might have to tap one side a little more than the other to keep it going in square. Both of these sides had reliefs on them to stop the bearing once it gets in deep enough. And you can tell when you bottom it out just like that there, it makes a little different sound. So like I said, this side on the with the chain side here gets the two bearings. So shoot a little oil on this one. Tap it in the same way. them bottoms out. Then you'll need a seal on this side, and we'll do the seal in a second. And so then the next part you want to do is put this sleeve in, and it just slides in there like that. And then your very last bearing will go in. A little oil on it as well. There you go. And kind of a little check that you can do to make sure you bottomed out. That sleeve, the sleeve that's on the inside, it should be pretty tight now because you have bearings pressed from both sides. And then pretty much the same process with the seal. Put a little bit of oil around those. Both of these seals are the same. Doesn't matter which side, as well as the bearings. All three of those were the same. So put a little bit of oil on it. Some of these you can actually press in with your hand. Some of them you have to tap in with a socket. But this one here is going to go in with your hand. So that's all you got to do there. Press that side in, flip it over, do the same to the other side. A little oil on here goes a long way, especially with these rubber seals. One other thing to help these things seal up, I like to do is take a little bit of wheel bearing grease and put some wheel bearing grease around the inside lip of these seals. That'll help you keep any crud from getting inside of there into your bearings, or just from grinding around in the hub. And that also helps seal up with your little spacers. So stick these on next. Slides in there like that. This one slides in this side. Look out, falling impacts. So that's it. Now slide the thing back on. May need to adjust the chain on it after we get it on there just to see what it looks like, but it's pretty much it. Axle goes in from the left side, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory since I showed how to take it apart, how to put the wheel back on. So alright, well, I hope you guys liked the video. I don't work on many of these dirt bikes, but this one here did a little motor work and needed a wheel bearing, or some wheel bearings. I had a couple small ones come in this week too, so I went ahead and fixed those and got some videos of them as well. Hit the like button, subscribe. I mostly work on four-wheelers, so if you got a four-wheeler, check me out. Check out my other videos. There might be something in there that pertains to you. So y'all have a good night.